with people who care. Hello, everybody. Today we are here at Outreach Teen and Family Services office, located inside the Executive Building on Washington Road. My name is Maggie Zangara. I am the program manager here at Outreach, as well as an outpatient therapist, and I will be hosting this episode of Teens Tap In. I am here today with the lovely Zoe Constantine, and she is a previous member of our Youth Advocacy Committee. Zoe, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Well, today's episode theme is going to be all about Zoe and her mental health story and experiences. So, to start us off, Zoe, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Let's see. Well, I am going to be 15 in October.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and going into 9th grade. I have a dog. He's a Shih Tzu.
What's your dog's name?
Gizmo.
Gizmo.
Yeah.
That's such a cute name.
And then I have one sister. She just went off to Kent State, though.
Oh, how was that?
It was okay, I guess.
Yeah.
She got embarrassed by us, so she kicked us out, but...
That's funny. Well, I'm sure you're going to miss her a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think it's still a great opportunity, though, to, appreciate when you get to see each other, and hopefully you'll have times where she'll come home, or maybe you can go up and visit.
Yeah.
And obviously talk through FaceTime and text as well. Very nice. So now we're going to do a couple fun icebreaker questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, first one. What animal best represents you today and why?
It's hard. Probably, I don't know, probably just a dog. I'm pretty chill, so.
Yeah. So a dog, because some dogs, I wonder if Is Gizmo pretty chill?
No.
So you'd be a chill dog. You wouldn't really channel Gizmo's energy.
Yeah,
but
no.
You channel a chill dog's energy.
Yeah.
I love that. I think I would be a dolphin today. I'm feeling very social and just this want to be outside. So, and I think just being on vacation in Florida, I was reminded of how much I love the beach. So, yeah. Okay, second question. What is the most used emoji on your phone right now? I'm going to look.
Me too. Okay.
Zoe, what is yours?
A heart.
Aww. Is it the red heart or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
What about yours?
Mine is that smiley face that has the little blushy.
Oh, yeah.
Cheeks.
Aw.
Yeah, I use that one a lot. Okay, and third and final question. If you could be famous for one thing, what would it be?
One thing. Probably writing.
Yeah. I heard that you're writing a book, actually.
Yes, I am.
How's that going?
It's going pretty good, I would say.
That is awesome. Where are you in the writing process?
Well, I'm editing it right now. So the first draft is done.
That's so exciting. Yeah. So now you're in the editing phase. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, everyone will have to stay tuned for what's to come with Zoe's book. That's a hard question for me. If I could be famous for one thing, what would it be? I think it would be something about bringing, connecting humans and animals together. Kind of finding this universal language that we can bond over and communicate with animals or dogs. Yeah, I'm just a big animal person. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's what I'd like to be famous for. Okay. Well, we would like to pause and thank St. Clair Health for being our annual sponsor.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving. building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
So before we get into this episode, I do want to share a quick disclaimer and let our listeners know that this episode will include some sensitive information about Zoe's personal mental health journey. And if you are experiencing any signs or symptoms of distress or anything that makes you feel unsafe or you feel like you're in crisis, please know that you should contact Resolve Crisis Network. Resolve Crisis Network is Allegheny County's 24/7 crisis response for the county, like I said, and they will be able to provide support immediately. So they can be reached at 888-796-8226. And because of the sensitivity of this important topic, we strongly encourage you to listen with a trusted adult and process your thoughts with them after listening. Lastly, I want to share that Outreach is a low level of care outpatient counseling organization. So we are here for listeners if they'd like to debrief the episode with a professional or if they have lower level needs. We do not see clients with higher level needs, but we'll do everything we can to refer clients who need support to someone that's the best fit, so the best fit level of care, and to qualified professionals. All right, Zoe. Well, let's get started. I really like for you to just kind of have the floor and start by sharing your experience with mental health.
Yeah, well, I guess it started, well, first of all, I was born in Florida. So I was born in Tampa, and I lived there until I was 7. And, I had my sister down there, and I had all my grandparents, like, right around the block.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to have them all right around the corner. My aunt and my cousin, and then my grandparents.
That sounds so nice. It sounds like you had such a great support system full of family so nearby.
And then I think I was 7 or 8. We moved to Kentucky. Well, my mom, my dad, my sister, and me. We moved to Kentucky. And then my grandparents, my aunt and cousin, they moved to Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And so Kentucky, it was okay at first, but it was like a really different culture there. Because, it was just, and we were apart from my grandparents and aunt and cousin. So that was just hard in general. And I had to start a new school. And my teacher, she wasn't the greatest.
Okay.
She was a little bit mean. But I guess I was making it work, kind of. And then we spent, a couple years there, like 3 years, I think.
Okay, so 3 years in Kentucky.
Yeah. And my sister, she was going into middle school then. And then, again, at that time, we were living in an apartment when we first moved there. But then we moved into a house. It was like 20 minutes away from the apartment.
Yeah.
And I had to switch schools again.
So there's so much change in your life at this point in time.
And it was really hard. And I think at that point I started getting a little bit depressed. I would feel sad like all the time. And I just didn't want to go to school. But I had to, of course. And I would cry a lot. And I guess it was just really hard to, be there without my family, or my extended family. And yeah, at the time it was different. Because like I said, with the culture and everything,
there was just so much, it sounds like you were doing your best to adapt and adjust to. But we know that adjustment is hard on us. And I can imagine that there were just so many layers, adjusting to a new culture, adjusting to moving from school to a different school.
Yeah.
Being far away from extended family that you were so close with. All these things were factors that are going to be hard to process.
Yeah. And I think it must have been in 4th grade. We were still in Kentucky. I started having a hard time in math class. And I've always been very good at like language arts, or people have told me that. But math, it was not so much. And so I went to see this, I don't know, she was a psychologist or something. And I don't know, there was like this downstairs basement of this place.
Was it in the school?
It wasn't in the school. It was like in a building.
Okay.
And I don't know why I remember this, but it was like in a downstairs, like separate. It looked like an interrogation room, kind of.
Yeah.
So it was a little weird looking. But
it sounds a little scary.
Yeah, it was kind of like nerve-wracking, to say the least. Because I didn't really know what was happening or why I was going in here with this weird lady. And then she told me to answer all these questions on the computer. And then, I don't know, she came back like an hour later maybe. And I think she talked to me some. And then I think she was the one who diagnosed me with depression. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. So I was like, I don't know, 9, maybe 10.
Yeah, you said you were in 4th grade.
Yeah, I was in 4th grade. So that didn't really mean much to me because all I knew was that I was like sad. And it was really hard. But I think when we moved to Pennsylvania at the end of 4th grade, we moved to Pennsylvania to be with my family, and things got a lot better, I would say. And I was going to start 5th grade at Lincoln Elementary.
Yeah.
And
so right in Mount Lebanon.
Yeah. And it was going well because the first half of the year, it was in person. This was pre-COVID.
Right.
So it was going well. We moved here in 2019, so.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that reference. Yeah.
So this was the fall of 2019. And I started school in 5th grade at Lincoln. And I made some friends. So that was really nice. And I was near my family again. And then, I don't know, maybe halfway through the year, I started feeling like sad again. And I couldn't really explain that because I always thought it was, just because I was away from my family.
Right.
And I was here now, so I was a little bit confused.
Valid.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know. It got really bad again. And
this feeling of sadness got really bad again?
Yeah. It got really bad again. And I would just be crying after school, I think. Like all evening. And it was really hard. And then I got a therapist again. And I didn't know how I felt about her. She was okay. But she wasn't the greatest. She just wasn't for me. That's what I'm trying to say. She was nice and she was like trying to help. I just didn't really click with her.
Yeah. And that's so true though. Really working with a counselor, there has to be this relationship, right? This like client counselor relationship. We call that the therapeutic alliance. And we just can't expect as a counselor to be a best fit for all of our clients. And our clients also are the ones that have the choice to say, I feel like this is a good fit, or I just don't feel like this is the best fit person for me. And that's totally fine. So it sounds like, and it's pretty common, because sometimes we're just, like I said, we can't have the expectation that we're all great fits for each other. So sometimes it does take working and exploring counselors a couple times before a client finds somebody that clicks, a counselor that clicks with them.
And I think, so the counselor, she was okay, I guess, kind of, but I think I just kind of dealt with that for, a while. And then things kind of got better again. And then COVID happened,
I guess. So that would be like March of 2020. So like the second half of your fifth grade year.
And so our fifth grade went all online.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the pandemic, I think at Mount Lebanon, at least, it was online, was like really unstructured because nobody had like figured out how to work things yet. So we were going on like Zooms, and then part of it was asynchronous. And I don't know, nobody really knew what we were doing because we were in the middle of a book. We were in language arts, so we had to read it on the computer in this tiny font, and it was really a different experience. And I think that's kind of how it was for everybody. But it was okay at first, as okay as that can be. I mean, it was COVID, the pandemic, so.
Right. Unprecedented times, for sure.
And I think, the summer of fifth grade, we were just, me and my sister and our family, we were at home, just in our bubble, quarantining, like most people did, I think. But we didn't even see like our extended family for a while. And so I think we were all a little lonely because, I mean, we were kind of getting sick of each other like anybody would.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people did.
I've heard a lot of people did.
But we managed, and I had my sixth grade year online, all online, and they had the hybrid option, but I didn't really want to do that. So, and I think it was like in the summer after fifth grade. So it was like, I don't know, we were all quarantining, and then, let me think. Okay, then we had a house disaster.
A house disaster?
Yeah. So rats invaded our house.
Oh my goodness.
They were like baby rats in the radiator, and they were like giving birth. So.
Wow.
And, we had to like, and some other things were happening also. And so we had to leave.
Okay.
We had to move out of our house in the middle of COVID, into an apartment. And the apartment was actually, it was really nice. It's the Ashby Apartments.
Okay.
So it's over by the mall.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And it was actually pretty nice there, but it was definitely a lot of chaos.
And again, a lot of unexpected change.
And so I think, that's where I did my sixth grade year online. And it was all right. It was more structured in sixth grade, because they kind of had figured stuff out. And I kind of liked it because you didn't really have to, they told you to turn on your camera, but a lot of people didn't. And I liked that. because I could sit there in my PJs and just like relax. And sometimes I would like fall asleep in the middle of science class. But like, it was okay for the most part at first. And then the second half was not so great. What happened was, so I was starting to get like a little bit lonely because I hadn't spent time with any of my friends in almost a year at that point.
Okay.
I think.
Because choosing that online option, it had some pros. You didn't have to turn your camera on. You could stay in bed and be at school. But we know kind of like there's two parts that I always think about with school. There's like the academic piece and the social piece.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that social piece was something that you weren't fully engaging in because of the choice of doing school online.
Yeah.
So loneliness.
And it was kind of disappointing too, because in 5th grade at the beginning before COVID, the teachers would always like talk to us about going into middle school and like taught us how to use the locker combinations.
Oh yeah.
And so we thought we were going to get to, do all that.
Right.
Because, going into middle school is like a big thing.
It's a big deal for sure.
And so I didn't really ever get to do that though. I mean, I did when I got back after COVID, but I think it's just different, when you first go into 6th grade. And that's just kind of what I expected to do. And that's not what happened. So.
Right. The reality turned out to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the second half of 6th grade year, I started getting a little bit lonely. Yeah, like I said. And my sister started having some health problems. And so that was kind of, I don't know, that was kind of stressful for me. And so we had this closet. It was like it was like a walk-in closet, but not like giant. And so I would do all my classes in there. So I started spending more of my time in there, kind of alone, just on my phone. And I definitely don't think that helped the situation. Like, because I know it was COVID, but like isolating myself, even from my family, and that didn't help the situation. So I tried to get a therapist, or my parents did for me. But I don't know what happened. Oh, it was online.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And so I think after that, I just spent a lot of time in the closet, really sad again. I think I was just, done with everything. And in my mind, it wasn't just like COVID. It wasn't just like the things that had happened to me. And I think the thing about depression is sometimes you can't explain it to people. It's like, sometimes I can't really explain it to myself, because how can you be that sad for like a reason sometimes you can't identify. And so,
do you feel like you were experiencing like hopelessness?
Yeah, it was like kind of this sense of doom, I think. Like nothing was ever going to get better. And that nobody liked me, even though that wasn't true. And that I would just be better off dead or something.
So you started to experience like suicidal ideation.
Yeah. And I think after a while, I just kind of let it, pass. I think it lasted maybe a couple of months, maybe.
And did you tell anybody about this?
I did, but, we tried to get that therapist, didn't work out. So I think my parents knew, but there wasn't a lot of like options at the time since everything was online and I didn't want to do online. So I was just like, whatever, I'll just deal with it. Which, I don't know, maybe online probably would have been better than just crying in the closet. But, so anyway, though, that went on for a couple months. And this one day, I was just, I don't know, I'm trying to remember. One morning, I think it was. It wasn't like a gradual thing. It was like in the one morning, I just woke up. I felt really good. And I'm like, well, I'm not depressed anymore, so that's good.
So you felt different.
Yeah, I felt different.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to explain. It was like not like everything kind of had like this glow to it. Like this very literal glow. Like I would see it glowing. And I had like, I was trying to think. I was still in the closet, but I would just lay on the floor in the closet and things were glowing and I was laying on the floor and I was looking up and all I can think about was how great life was. And like I would cry like all day maybe, or most of the day, part of the day. And because they were tears of joy though. So I was like I was crying, but it was like for a completely different reason.
Right. It was an expression of a different feeling other than sadness.
Yeah.
Of like elation maybe? Or
yeah, it was like this
joy.
It kind of felt like this adrenaline was going through my veins, like ecstasy.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting feeling. Because I never felt that before. And, I don't know, for whatever, the longest time, I think for, I don't know, whenever it ended, that went on for a couple months though. But I kind of liked it, but at the same time, like, I would be really happy. But at the same time, every little thing somebody did, I would like get angry. And I wouldn't like express my anger, like yell at them or anything more than usual. I would just have this internal, anger.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was happy. And so I didn't like that part because I knew I shouldn't have been angry, but I was.
That seemed conflicting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. But I didn't really say anything. I mean, I thought I was having a spiritual awakening because, I don't know, I guess that's what I read or something online.
Yeah.
And I think a couple months later, it went on for a couple months. And this one night, it was just like a regular night.
And it was daily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was daily and it was all day. And I went to sleep one night and I woke up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I saw this lady on the end of the bed. And she was like she was crawling towards me. And I just jumped back. I was like terrified. Because I mean, if there's a lady on the end of your bed, like crawling. And
towards you.
Yeah, she was crawling towards me. She looked scary. She had like her hair in her face.
Yeah.
And she was, I don't know, I jumped and then I turned on a light and all of a sudden she was gone. And for me and my sister, we joked about, for a while, we joked about it being a spirit because we went to Williamsburg like a couple weeks before.
Yeah.
And, it's a really old town in Pennsylvania, and it's supposed to be haunted. And we went on a ghost tour. So we joked about a spirit following us home.
Right.
And neither of us really actually believed it, but I don't know. I guess that's what I kind of, used to cope with that.
Right, because if something scary happens, we want to understand what happened and the why, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's a valid and really, like, I feel like that would be a typical way to cope, right?
Yeah.
You try to name the experience and make sense of it. Oh, you just went to this place where you did a haunted tour thing, so
yeah. And so
I hear that.
I think I just eventually I felt normal again, quote normal.
And what does that mean? You weren't?
I felt like good, like happy, but not like super, super happy where like everything was glowing and everything was great and life is awesome and I never want to die and all this stuff. But I wasn't sad either. And so I started my 7th grade year and it was pretty good. It kind of felt like it was in person.
Okay.
So it felt like everything was kind of getting back to normal.
Yeah.
And I thought everything was going to get back to normal. So we were, I don't know, I think. And so I think what happened? Yeah, I think the first couple months, I think school started at the end of August. So the first like 3 months were good. I was like doing my classes. I was getting good grades. I was making friends.
Yeah.
And I was feeling good again. And then I think we were on fall break, I think. It had just been my 13th birthday by October. And then I think around Halloween, I think it was like fall break. And I think it was something. No, this was before fall break. After my birthday, though, after my 13th birthday, I was at school one day, and I was in the classroom, in English class, I think it was. And we were right by this big window. The English classroom, it overlooked, like, the playground. And sometimes the teachers would take the middle schoolers out there and stuff. Or the Jefferson Elementary would go out there.
Right.
And so it was like pretty typical to hear, kids playing out there and stuff, because usually they did. And I didn't really think anything of it because I was sitting there doing my work and I heard them playing. But the thing was, it was like, it seemed a little weird to me because it was just not silence and then they just started. Like usually it's like gradual or like, it's there or like they come out one by one. But it was a little weird to me. So I went to get up to go to pretend to sharpen my pencil.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see out the window because it was right by the window.
Right.
And then I looked out there and there was nobody out there. And I thought, well, that's weird. Maybe they're like in the other classroom. But like, that's not what it sounded like. And so I looked over in the other classroom and I saw these, in the other classroom, all the kids, there were like, I don't know, 20 kids in there or something. And they were all looking at me and their eyes were like green or something. And I'm like, this is a little freaky. Like, I don't really know what's happening. I thought maybe I was just, I don't know, imagining things or like overthinking it or something. And so I just went to sit back down. And then I went to my next class. I waited for the class to end. I, thought maybe I had something in my eye or something.
Yeah.
But I went to my next class and then I started hearing construction out the window again of the math class. And it's usually, there's also construction. So, and I looked out there and there was nobody out there.
And like no signs of like trucks or
there
like
wasn't
construction.
And there were no people. And I heard people talking like outside. And these loud noises, and then I would hear music. But the band room and the orchestra room, they're downstairs, like 2 floors below us. And so I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out a little. But I don't know. I went along with it that day. A couple other things happened that day. But, the next day, it was a little more.
And did you tell anybody?
at this point, I was not telling anybody. Because
Okay.
I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just not seeing the construction. Maybe it's like over in the distance where I can't see it. So I didn't tell anybody yet. So the next couple days, I kept going. Mm-hmm. And I could still do things. I could still pay attention. Mm-hmm. And then I think what really, I don't know, made me think something was wrong. Mm-hmm. I think a couple days later, I was in science class. And we were learning, I don't know, we were learning about, it's like genetics or something. Or DNA. I don't know. But I guess it doesn't really matter. But I was trying to do my work. Yeah. All of a sudden, I hear this really loud explosion. I looked over, and there was like a volcano, outside the window, because I sat next to the window.
Okay. So this isn't in your you weren't working on.
No, we were doing like a
DNA
individual assignment. Okay,
right.
Like on paper.
Gotcha.
And so I looked out, and there was like off in the distance, there was this volcano, and it was like, it was all exploding everywhere. And I was looking over and nobody else was looking. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is weird. Aren't you guys gonna, well, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking, aren't you guys gonna look or something?
Right. Normally kids would comment on that and make.
Yeah. But no, the teacher just kept going on with his lesson.
Right.
Like, okay, well, this is weird. Mm-hmm. And so then, I actually didn't say anything to my parents at the time. Mm-hmm. But, so that went on until about fall break. It was like Halloween time.
And was there a reason, Zoe, you chose not to share with your parents what you were experiencing?
I think part of it was just like I was a little confused, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of something that's like, whatever, just, I'm just imagining stuff. Mm-hmm. And I guess I didn't really know how to tell them. Like, what do you say? I saw a volcano out my window. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to say that. But I think luckily, I was having, I don't know, a little bit before that. A little before this, probably the beginning of 7th grade. Mm-hmm. I had like these, some OCD symptoms. Mm-hmm. Like I was tapping things to like make sure, like I'd have to tap the wall 3 times to make sure nobody died. Mm-hmm. And things like that. But that was all gone by the time this happened. It was very brief. Mm-hmm. But they had already booked a therapist appointment.
Okay.
Just with the doctor.
Yeah.
I think it was it was like a therapist, like a short-term therapist through the doctor's office.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And so I was going to go see her. And she was talking to me all about how to cope with like OCD and stuff. Mm-hmm. And symptoms of OCD. And I had to be the one, I was like, well, that doesn't really happen anymore. That was a couple days. And I'm also seeing a volcano out my window. Mm-hmm. And by that time, I think maybe I was like, maybe like a couple days before that, I started hearing these voices. And they were like, I don't know. At first, I didn't know what they were saying. Mm-hmm. And then I think they would just have regular conversation. And so I went and I told her all this. Right. And she, I don't know, I think she almost fell out of her chair because she's like a child. She usually works with I think she worked with 5 to 12, like younger kids.
Okay.
And I think she almost fell out of her chair because she looked really shocked. Mm-hmm. And because she probably hasn't heard that before because she's working with younger kids. And that usually doesn't present that early.
Right. And you went in presenting with, I think she thought, with OCD signs and symptoms.
I guess I kind of I don't know. I confused her a little bit.
But I'm so glad that you shared with her. You advocated for yourself in that meeting and said, I did experience some of, those compulsions, like tapping 3 times, making sure, try to make sure everybody stays alive, right? But then you advocated that actually you shared what else you're experiencing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a safe space to do that.
Because
keep going.
I think I felt more comfortable telling her
right
than I did my parents. Not because I trusted her more, because I just met the lady, so
mm-hmm.
I just, it was just, she was like a professional.
Right.
And so after I think I told her, and she almost fell out of her chair, and then she kind of freaked out a little. She's like, well, what do they say? And I'm like, well, I was kind of nervous. I was going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I didn't want to tell her what they said. Because I thought, I don't know, she was going to think I was, like, needed to be in the hospital or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I guess I could tell her.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
yeah, I'm sure that you felt very vulnerable in that situation.
Yeah. And so I think I finally told her after, like, 5 minutes of sitting there for trying to guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think... I didn't tell her, but she finally did guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, do they tell you to, like, hurt yourself or something?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I say when I mean yes.
Mm-hmm.
When I don't want to say yes to, like, even my therapist now. That's what I say.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, she was, like, rushing around. She was like, I have to go talk to my supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes, and I'm sitting there thinking she's going to, like, call an ambulance or something. But she didn't, though. So she told my parents, and she's like, well, you could go get an evaluation at Western Psych.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I guess I didn't really know what that was. Because I've never been there before.
Right.
At the time. And I was like, well, okay. So we went there. They just
that same day
us.
You went.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had to wait like 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not a great experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they just told us, I wasn't admitted, so they just told us to go to the at-risk program for psychosis, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But their earliest appointment was like months away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just waited, and we couldn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have a therapist at the time, because the lady that I had, the one that told us she wouldn't see me again.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really blame her. I mean, because, like, if that's not your specialty, then, like, if you can't help somebody, then what's the point in seeing them?
Right. And yeah, I just want to clarify that is how we practice as counselors, right? It's our ethical obligation and duty to make sure that we feel competent in working with our clients. Yeah. And if we don't, we are supposed to refer out and make sure there is a qualified professional.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the client. It's just, can we help them with what they're presenting with is the question that we have to ask ourselves and answer honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, so we had to wait months to get an evaluation for this at-risk place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at-risk for psychosis for like 12 to 21, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally got the evaluation. But like between them referring us to the at-risk place and our evaluation there, I think they just got a lot worse. Mm-hmm. And by the time we got there, they said, well, you're not allowed in here. And we waited 4 months for this appointment.
Yeah.
And they said, well, no, you're not at risk anymore. You're in psychosis. And
so the severity for you with psychosis symptoms increased.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being a good fit for the at-risk psychosis treatment, they said, no, now you have to go to a psychosis treatment.
Yeah, that's
option.
What they said.
Okay.
But in the greater Pittsburgh area, there's only 2.
Yeah.
And
what are those 2?
What's the name of them?
Yeah.
Okay, there's STEP. It's Services Treatment for Early Psychosis. That's what it stands for.
Okay.
And then there's Engage.
Engage.
I don't know what that
There's so many acronyms, aren't there, Zoe?
Yeah, but...
So STEP and Engage are the two known treatment facilities for children or teens with psychosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, because normally that diagnosis is commonly diagnosed later on in life. Yeah.
And she referred us to the STEP.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, but, here's the catch. They do their first episode psychosis clinic, but, they only take 14 and up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just turned 13, I don't know, 3 months ago.
Right, in October.
And we're like, well, what about Engage? She's like, well, they're only 15 and up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't really know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was, we tried calling. Maybe they would make an exception. They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Because, that's kind of what they have to do, though, because insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not their fault. But, we didn't know what to do. Yeah. So we just, I think we had to find our own outside psychiatrist, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked around, but couldn't find anything. Eventually, I ended up back at Western Psych.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got admitted that time.
Okay. And were you told to go to Western Psych, or was it more of a crisis situation or like...
I'm pretty sure. Okay. So yeah, we had a psychiatrist actually though. And then our psychiatrist told us to go there.
Oh, okay.
Because we've been seeing her for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But she couldn't increase the medicine fast enough.
Okay.
Because then, she started me on some medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't increase it fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there. They increased it a little. And it was an interesting experience, but... And a lot of chaos, but eventually I think, I got discharged. I was there for 9 days, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I got outpatient again, and I was doing kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still having symptoms.
Was your medication helping?
It was helping, yes.
Mm-hmm. With the hallucinations.
Yeah, I was. Mm-hmm. And I was, but it wasn't taking the stuff away completely.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I had these other things coming back again, I was getting depressed again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I don't know, I think at one point I got this really, it was this really good feeling again.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, at one point, I think when was it? I don't know when it was, but I think I thought I had these powers,
mm-hmm.
or I thought I could fly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was immortal. I thought all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And, none of which were true, which I found out when, I crashed into a depression. And so that didn't, go very well, but...
And what do you mean by that?
It didn't go very well?
No, so did you try to
I didn't
fly, or
I did not try to fly, thank goodness, because
that could be,
I think,
very risky.
Yeah, it would have been. So it's a good thing that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think at that time I got on a different medicine then,
mm-hmm.
another one, I think, and that kind of stabilized that.
Oh, good.
And so then I wasn't really getting depressed or anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't feeling like I could fly.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a up-down roller coaster,
mm-hmm.
which was good, but I was still having these psychosis symptoms. I thought the air was poisoned,
mm-hmm.
and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And people were out to get me, and it was it was very scary.
Yeah.
But
so would we to clarify just for listeners, that would be more so like delusions that you were experiencing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, it was just very very scary altogether. But
yeah,
and then I think
that would be very scary.
Yeah, and then I finally got a therapist though, and I'm still with her.
Now, what type of therapist is this?
Well, she is, I think, I'm not actually sure.
Okay.
I think she does. I've had a couple therapists,
Mm-hmm.
But this is the one I've been with the longest.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of helps me like sort things out.
Mm-hmm.
And, just figure out my goals and stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think, yeah. And so then we kept trying. I've been through like partial hospitalization programs, where it's like you go there for the day and you go home at night.
Mm-hmm.
It's like substitute for school for like a short term.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been through, outpatient. Went to the hospital again.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of evaluations.
Yeah.
The emergency room, and it's been very wild.
Yeah, it's been a journey, it sounds like, for sure, Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to pause real quick and just thank St. Clair Health for their generosity in sponsoring the second season of Teens Tap In.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together by creating reliable resources that recognize all of our neighbors with access to the highest quality healthcare, advanced care close to home, and a shared humanity that delivers on our joint vision to create a healthier community for all. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
So Zoe, thank you so much for sharing your journey with psychosis. I know the journey is still going, and it's not something, mental health isn't about reaching some destination. It really is all about the journey and finding ways to manage and cope and lead a happy and healthy life, right? Our mental health, and if we experience any mental health challenges or anything in that realm, right, doesn't defy us as people. We're so much more than that. But I'm wondering for you, like, where are you now?
Well, I'm still trying to find like the right medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm doing okay right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been better.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still trying to find the right things.
Yeah, so that means like really finding the right like medication management, as well as it sounds like you're working with a counselor who is well informed about or with psychosis. Mm-hmm. Are you still hoping to get into one of these STEP or Engage programs?
Well, I am 14 now, but we tried to get in there. It didn't really go as well.
Okay.
They thought I was too severe.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think we're just going to try to find like an outpatient doctor. I mean, we've had a lot, but we're still trying to find one that I connect with.
Yeah.
And hopefully get back to Mount Lebanon School District, because I wasn't able to go to school for like a while. And then I ended up at Wesley School.
Right.
Yeah. But I do hope to get back to Mount Lebanon School District and find a good doctor.
I love that goal. So what do you want people to maybe better understand about psychosis, or just about people with mental health challenges in general?
Probably that it's not like how the media portrays it. Because I know there's a lot of movies and shows out there that don't portray mental health the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, the characters who usually have a mental health problem are like homicidal or like killers or like violent, when in reality that's not really how it is. And most of the time we're just normal people with extra challenges.
I think you said that just so well, right? A lot of times mental health is a very internal struggle, an internal battle. And I think that's why it's so important for everyone to be kind as much as possible to each other, because a lot of people are fighting a battle that we may know nothing about. So I think that rings so true, Zoe. And what are some ways that you found or would like to share maybe with listeners who are experiencing any type of, mental health? Like, what are some ways that you think are helpful to cope?
Well, I like listening to music a lot.
Yeah.
So usually I take my headphones everywhere. It's really relaxing to me. And sometimes I like watching a lot of TV.
Okay.
And
any current favorite shows you're watching?
I'm watching The Gifted right now. It's on CW.
Ooh, I've heard of that show. I haven't watched it myself, but
yeah,
I heard good things.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I also like hanging out with my sister. And because she makes me laugh a lot. And my mom and my grandparents and my aunt.
Yes, because now you're all back in Pittsburgh together. I love that. Well, Zoe, before we wrap up our episode for today, is there anything else you'd like to share? Didn't feel like you had the opportunity to.
I guess just maybe that it's not just people with mental health problems. A lot of people would just probably assume that, because in health class, they teach you all these different things about mental health and how it just affects your mental health. But I think it actually affects everything in your life. If you have a mental health problem, it affects your relationships, it affect your physical health, and your social life. And so it's not just in your head.
Yeah, so well said, right? Mental health problems interfere with every other realm of living, right? So school, if you work, home life, relationships, like you said. And if anybody feels like for some reason, and it's okay if you can't identify it, but if you feel like your life is being interfered in some way, maybe it is a good next step to reach out to a professional counselor and talk through some of those things, just to first gain a better awareness of what you're experiencing. And then as counselors, we're trained to help with next steps that would be, again, right, in your best interest. But I think that's such a good point, Zoe. And that's why it's so important I want to encourage people to be preventative as much as possible. And if something seems off, or something seems different or scary, or just you feel really confused about an experience you had and an emotion that you're having, if they seem like they're conflicting, it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to tell a trusted adult. It's very advocated that you reach out for help and to know that you are not alone, and there are people out there and supports out there that really want to help and can help. It normally is a journey, right? And I think Zoe, your experience and you coming on the podcast today and sharing your experience has highlighted that. But the thing that I think is so beautiful is that you're going to keep going. And that's just the most beautiful thing. So lastly, this podcast would not be possible without the support of St. Clair Health. Please listen to the following ad.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
All right. Well, again, Zoe, thank you so much for being our wonderful guest on today's episode. Just thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed making this podcast episode with you. And thank you to all our listeners for your support. None of it would be possible without Outreach Teen and Family Services and our annual sponsor, St. Clair Health. Stay tuned for more episodes. All right. Thanks, Zoe. Bye.
Bye.
The views and opinions expressed in the Teens Tap In podcast represent the opinions of the hosts and their guests. The views and opinions expressed by Outreach Teen and Family Services employees, donors, and volunteers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Outreach Teen and Family Services or the show's sponsors. The content here should not be taken as counseling advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is unique, please consult your mental health provider or physician for any mental health counseling or other medical questions. The podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including, but not limited to, establishing a standard of care in a legal sense, or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast. If you find any error in any of the content of the podcast, please contact us at podcasts@outreachteen.org. Outreach Teen and Family Services, its sponsors, donors, and partners expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages whatsoever arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. Please go to www.outreachteen.org to see the complete notice and disclaimer for the podcast episodes.